All right, hello. Welcome to Hedgehog Historicals. We are continuing our series on game design with exploring how we created a Warlords of Erehwon army from TT Combat's Undead Halfling selection or collection. All right, so today we're going to start by going over the zombies. We're going to end up going through the ghouls, the mummies, and the wraiths. And in next week's video, we'll cover the catapults and the ogre giants. What do you call it? Keep forgetting zombie ogres. All right. Anyway, so here's the brightly colored, and honestly, I really love the way these models look. Sorry, Dave, you did a great job. But anyway, enough of that. This is it can be either 4 or 5 man units or 2 10-man units of zombies, halfling zombies to be specific. And if you remember back when we talked about the necromancer, Nigel has an upgrade available to him to be a zombie necromancer as well. So he'll be able to use follow on these units. He can't use follow on anything else really, unless he gets that one upgrade. So anyway, zombies. Zombies are zombies. Of course, halfling zombies aren't quite normal, and that's one of the things we wanted to do with some of these special units. We wanted to take some of the cool model aspects and kind of tie the halfling piece into what the lore usually says about stuff like zombies and ghouls and wraiths and such. So we start with the zombies. We'll go ahead and take a look at what the stat line looks like first. All right, so here's the stat line for zombies.
Because Kingpin has to be in there.
Okay.
Just because that was a mistake. And I was like,
no,
you know what? He looks like Kingpin. Let's go with it.
I like it. All right, so here's the stat line for the zombies. Now, again, they are halflings, but they're dead. Okay, you can't get past that fact. Now, zombies in general have really poor stats, and so we wanted to reflect that. I took a look at how zombies differed from regular humans to see what direction their stats would normally go, and I went to the halflings that kind of did the same. So you'll see they're not too good with the zombies. Agility kind of fell down to 3. Accuracy's down to 2. So not very good. But they're not going to use that accuracy anyway. Strength is down to 3. So they're even weaker, and they have a res of 3. So talk about a glass unit. But zombies are that way. And of course they have an initiative of 5 and command of 5 because zombies, well, they're zombies. They do have one hand-to-hand attack with a strike value of 0. They do, of course, have the undead and zombie special rules. So they will be able to advance up the field even if they fail an order test. So they still have some of that zombie harassment value.
Yeah,
but they're just weaker.
They're chaff. They're a wall you have to get through to get to the important stuff.
Yeah, and because TT Combat's kit comes with 20 models, that's a lot of models. Yeah, so the point costing on these things are a little different though, because when you look at Rick's actual point values rubric, and you try to actually calculate the point values of a real zombie, it doesn't come out right. So what I kind of did to come up with the point values for these zombies is I assumed it was a base of 25 for just the 5 models, 5 points a model, and added the differences between the halflings version and the regular version. And since the halfling has 1 more agility and 3 more initiative, that's a total of 4 points. So it should be 4 points more expensive than a regular mummy. So that's why it's 9 points per.
Zombie.
Sorry, zombie, not a mummy. Zombie. So this point value part is a little bit kind of funky because when you look at the actual stats of a zombie, it should be negative based on the way his actual point value system works. So Rick's the game designer. He can do what he wants. I'm going to take what he's done and build off of it. So because you're actually getting a better agility, which can affect you going through terrain, and since you are getting an actual better initiative, which If you want to ambush, you have a 50% chance of passing. That gives you some options. So 9 points apiece. It's 45 base and up to 44 more. So you have a 90-point unit. So it's not as cheap as regular zombies, but they tend to do well. In the regular zombie role. I don't think we've actually had any situations where they've taken advantage of their initiative or agility bonus.
No, I usually screen the. I either screen the sword and board guys or bubble wrap niggle root.
That's right. Yeah, you do that effectively. Yeah, it does make it for an expensive bubble wrap, but
it's the cheapest bubble wrap I got.
Oh no, it is. Yeah, it is. It's. This is one of those weird units that it doesn't point out as the way you expect it to, given Rick's rules. So he kind of had to play with it. So right now it's sitting at a very strict take the existing mummy costs. The existing zombie cost, and add Rick's cost for each point value that's or stat line that's improved. So this may change, but right now it's sitting at 5 or 9 points per model. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the mummies, because since I've been saying it so much. All right. These are interesting looking models, but these are the TT Combat mummies, halfling undead mummies. Now, again, this is another situation where we started with the original mummy stat line.
Is there a mummy stat line?
Oh, nope, sorry, there isn't. No, we had to actually make up. This is a situation where we actually had to make up a unit completely, because it simply doesn't exist. So kind of took a look at, well, what does a lore normally have for a mummy? They're strong. Yeah, that's one of the characteristics. They're not particularly different than a human being, except they're kind of slow. So they're kind of a mix of, they're a strong undead that's slow, so they're hard to dissuade, they're hard to turn away. So I kind of figured I'd kind of merge some of the rules for zombies and regular skeletons, and not really go with the halfling version, simply because take a halfling approach to it. However, let's take a look at the stat line, kind of see if I can explain my thought process. Alright, so here's the stat line for the mummies. Now, again, thinking in terms of just looking at a human being mummy and kind of how they relate to a regular human being. Their agility isn't that special compared to regular humans. So I figured, well, we'll just leave the 6 agility for regular halflings. Now, Rick advises not to lower any stats you don't use, because you don't want to, quote, game the point value system. So we left the accuracy at 5 base. Now, mummies are notably strong in lore. And so as a result, I figured, okay, well, they should be stronger than halflings. So I went with a strength 5. Res, though, they're no different. They're a wrapped human being, so there's no real armor. So I figured, okay, that means we'll just use a wrapped halfling. So the res is 4 for them. Initiative, they are slow. You've seen them. If you've seen Abbott and Costello meet the mummy, it's a perfect example. I figured, let's take the initiative down from 7 down to 5. But we want to give them some resilience as far as order tests and things. So I left them at 6, which is a little lower than a standard halfling, but it's better than stuff like zombies. Now, to kind of reflect some of their abilities, obviously they're undead, and I gave them a single hand-to-hand attack with no strike value, because that's what their fists are good for. But I made them slow, made them only go 4, because that's, again, the nature of zombies. And mummies, mixing them up. But I did give them the zombie rule, because I figured that if they ever did fail their test, that's not going to stop them from moving, because in the lore of the zombie movies, they still keep walking towards you. Now, some of you might think that maybe the slow rule might not be appropriate. because zombie movies have other zombies mummies moving faster, and that's entirely fine. Again, this is how I'm interpreting this unit. When you design your own unit, you can take what you see in your own mind, and you can make those as the point values and special abilities that you want to give them. So in our case, made it slow 4, and gave them zombie rules, so that even if they fail a mortar test, they're going to advance 6 or 4 towards you. So they're still kind of dangerous. The only upgrade they can really get, since they can have an AC or accuracy of 5, I figured, well, okay, let's give them the ability to throw rocks. Figure, why not? They're halflings. So, and they are magically animated dead bodies, so yeah, why not? So now you actually have a very cheap unit. This one I actually did point cost out exactly like Rick's unit says. So this one's actually cheaper than the zombies because it point cost out to 25 for a 5-man unit, or 5 points per model, according to Rick's point cost guideline. So though it's more expensive than zombies, I mean, I don't know how Rick was costing his zombies to come up with his numbers. So the mummies are his cheap unit at 25 for a 5-man unit. So it's a grand total of 50 points for what you see on the board. Now this kit also comes with 20 though, right? So you got 2 units of 5 or 10, so that's 100 points. That's not a lot of points to spend on infantry unit. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the ghouls. Alright, so now we've got TT Combat's ghouls, halfling ghouls. So again, with the concept being these are halflings that just became kind of cannibalistic on the dead, so they've changed. Now Dave's approach, pretty much straight out of Legend, and we kind of decided to take a look at the existing ghouls and adapt them with some of the halfling stats, since they're more halfling than they are undead. Alright, before we take a look at the stats themselves, let's take a look at their heads. Just to point out a couple things here.
Well, no, there's just one thing that I think about 4 or 5 of them have this problem. This is the only problem I had with any of the models. There wasn't that much flash on them, but for some reason, on about 4 or 5 of them, there's a hole in the top of their head.
Oh, that's different. Okay.
I don't think it's supposed to be there. I think it's just from the casting. But yeah, it was just like, what the?
Wow.
And at that point, I was like, I don't want to green stuff something this small. So I was like, screw it.
I don't blame you.
I'll be the only one that probably sees it. And if somebody else sees it, more power to them.
Okay, yep. All right. I never noticed in all the times I played against them, so. All right, let's look at the stat line. All right, now the ghouls are another one we had to come up with from scratch. And again, these came just out of conversations. All right, so here's the stat line for the ghouls. Here's what it looks like. And again, these are pretty much just normal alive halfling. So they really stick with more of the halfling stats. So that's why they've got the agility and accuracy of 6. But because ghouls tended to, in lore, to be stronger than normal humans, I went ahead and gave them a strength 5. So that makes it a little more dangerous in combat. Again, though, res 4, so they're glass cannon. Initiative did lower it down to 6, because really that kind of stays in line with kind of our image of the ghouls. And command is only 7 for the Ghoul King. We actually use the Ghoul King as we called him that to represent a sergeant, leveraging the name of the model that TT Combat came out with. So you don't have to use the model specifically, but you can just call one of these models in there the Ghoul King. In this case, he's got the tufts of flowers to represent those. Now the key comes really in the actual combat stats, because that's where our special abilities, that's really where these things shine. They're still considered undead, even though they're technically living. They do suffer from all the unfortunate things that happen when you lose a leader. But again, they're immune to the extra pin from fire. They have 2 hand-to-hand attacks at strike value 1. because their claws are dangerous. And to make them even more fierce, I gave them Frenzied Charge, which makes them that much more dangerous going in the first time, when they actually do the charging. So this is another good unit to give the halfling army, this undead halfling army, some punch to it, just in case they don't have the cavalry gets chewed up. This is another way to get some of those extra pins on the enemy unit, potentially take out a complete enemy unit. There really are no upgrades you can give them. So the thing is, they're kind of expensive. They're 15 points a model. So the base unit of 5 is 87 points. That's getting up there with a lot of the good units in many other armies. So, but when you look at those stats, or not the stats, but the abilities, the two attacks plus the frenzied charge, you can see how they're more dangerous, so they're kind of worth that value. So
They're second wave.
they kind of are, yeah. So yeah, they kind of back up the cavalry pretty well. And again, TT Combat, 20 models in the box, so that's 2 full units or 4 small ones. All right, let's take a look at the last unit of our special section here, and this is going to be the whites, or yeah, I guess they're the ghosts, but we call them ghosts, but they're the whites. All right, now I don't know about you, if you've ever faced the whites, especially when they're made spectral.
They're innately spectral.
Oh, are they?
Yes, they're innately spectral.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
When you give them frenzy.
Oh, frenzy. That's what you do. Okay, yeah. Because these are ghosts, and the only spectral unit by default in the entire undead list is the whites, I figure it's kind of a pretty good thing to pattern them after. Even though whites are a completely different fantasy creature, I just thought it was a good place to start. And these are another very good close combat unit for the undead halfling army. It makes this army much more potent than just having those big blocks of regular skeletal infantry. And when you have these guys on the table, you're going to be able to back up your cavalry very well. And like I said, if you faced regular whites on the table already, you have the same thing to worry about when you face these. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. All right. So, again, it pretty much went with kind of the whites flavored to be halfling, like I've done with all of these. So again, accuracy and agility 6, strength and res 4, initiative 6, and command 7, whether it's a sergeant or not. But again, just like the whites, they've got dread and deathly chill. Those are the things that really cause the trouble. And since they're spectral, they ignore terrain, which we all hate when we're fighting them. And it gives them a really, really solid infantry unit to fight with. They're only 10 points apiece when it comes to, with all these special rules, because, again, these guys have a lot of the stats are a little bit lower than some of the regular, what you normally start with. And when you compare them to the ghouls, their special rules are a little cheaper. So that's why they ending up being cheaper per model, 10 as opposed to 15. All right, so that's kind of wraps up most of the undead infantry for the halflings. The next video we're going to cover the 2, what I will call the artillery support. All right, stay tuned for our next video. Catch you guys later. Bye-bye.